Back in 2008, Chris Perkins, the lead story designer for Wizards of the Coast, decided that he was going to team up with Mike Krahulik and Jerry Holkins from Penny Arcade and Scott Kurtz from Table Titans and PvP and create a D&D adventure that would help players understand better the methods of D&D 4th edition. While D&D 4th edition was a complete and utter flop, their game, however, was not. Long live Acquisitions Incorporated. Hello everybody, JDPaladin here, and this is Recommendation Station. All aboard, people, because today we are talking about Acquisitions Incorporated, the series. That's right, folks, the series, finally. See, back in 2008, what happened was they created the 4th edition game, and they went through their first adventure, and then in the second season, they brought in actor Will Wheaton, who played a character, an Eladrin Avenger by the name of Aophel Elramain. Jerry Holkins plays the head of the corporation of Acquisitions Incorporated. That's a lot of words there, probably means nothing, but I don't care. Omin Dran, the CEO and basic con artist extraordinaire. You gotta love it. Scott Kurtz played Binwin Bronzebottom, the dwarven meat shield, and he really lives up to his title. And then you have Mike Krahulik, who is probably one of the coolest magicians this side of Ed Greenwood, with his character Jim Dark Magic. So it really outgrew the podcast, and then it went to doing the live pack shows. At one point, Chris Perkins even called it the most intimate D&D game ever, because for the first one that they did, they basically packed everybody in the room. It was like standing room only. There was like 1,000 people. It was so crowded. And it just sort of blossomed from there. Paul and Storm, the comedy troupe of troubadours, I guess you would call them, they were the balladeers for... they were the minstrels for the 2011 show. Chris Perkins has put on various costumes. There's costumes that are basically regulation for the Acquisitions Incorporated group. And all went smoothly until the 8th season, when a scheduling conflict necessitated a new intern at Acquisitions Incorporated. Enter Patrick Rothfuss, award-winning author, one of the best in the business. And he brought in his character, the swashbuckling bard Viari. And through the Arc of the Mad Mage, they gained some canonicity to themselves, too. As it turns out, it's canon that Omin Dran is, in fact, the CEO of Acquisitions Incorporated, as well as a Masked Lord of Waterdeep. What? But after a certain period of time, and especially after the Arc of the Mad Mage, the Acquisitions Incorporated games basically just went right back to, being pack shows only. There was no podcast left. So it kind of behooved the fans to request that there actually be a series. And at PAX East this year in 2016, it was announced that Acquisitions Incorporated would be gaining a YouTube series on Penny Arcade TV. Now that we're all caught up, because as of June 8th, Acquisitions Incorporated, the series launched, it's time to examine the first episode and recommend this thing or not recommend it. So let's talk for a minute. First off, I'd like to note that the table that was used for Acquisitions Incorporated, this series, is not the one that they use at the PAX shows, which is branded. Yeah, branded. You gotta love it. But is in fact donated by Carolina Game Tables. Now, they probably paid for it, but I'm going to call it a donation because, what else am I going to do? But nonetheless, it's just one of the coolest things ever that they're playing on what looks to be a Tablezilla, one of their models. I love the thing. I want the thing so bad, but I just have nowhere near enough money. But nonetheless, it's a wonderful, wonderful setup that they have. And you gotta love the fact that all of Acquisitions Incorporated is together. The animated intro is done by Chris Straub, and I love what this guy does for the intro for every Acquisitions Incorporated. This time he really, I think, went over the top on it, just the 3 foes, now friends, and the artwork was spectacular up until it went right back to the standard, and that just made me laugh. And everything about it was just hilarious, and that's become something of a staple with the series, I've noticed. And yeah, really, there's just no reason not to watch it. It's really good. So this storyline that they're doing with Acquisitions Incorporated, it centers around a story that I read a long time ago, back when I was a kid, as a matter of fact. The group of Acquisitions Incorporated has just been sort of hired, you could say, to find an artifact known as a piece of the Rod of Seven Parts. Now, the way that this thing was described to me, it rang a bell in my head, and I got to thinking, where have I heard that before? And it, bing, comes right to me. The Rod of Law. For those of you who have been playing since the original Dungeons & Dragons, or in at least 2.5 or 2.0, the advanced version, yeah, you wouldn't remember the Rod of Law. It's an ancient artifact that, when it's being wielded, basically will take any neutral or chaotic character and make them lawful. It tips everything in law's favor, and people just tend to love it. So, remembering that this was the case, I immediately latched onto the story, and I became truly interested. Not just because it's Acquisitions Incorporated, but because this is incorporating a piece of my childhood and my original D&D experiences into Acquisitions Incorporated, and I thought this was a really cool thing. Now, one thing that I noticed is they are really playing up the corporation angle of the story. Viari keeps talking about intern pools, and everything's about buyouts and leverages and things like that, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can kind of see that, but this is, a little bit more of a magical endeavor. Let's, a little bit more of a fantastical angle. Let's see a little more of that. But it's still cool, Plus, it's, what I've grown to love from the guys anyway, so there you are. In the final moments of the first episode, we see the first true flub, when Scott Kurtz goes to pick up 2 D20 and accidentally tosses one over the side. Jerry Holkins comes up, and this is where the NSFW tag is coming in. He's like, "You son of a bitch!" Of course, one of his earliest rolls, he rolls I think what was a 13, and then he just starts, which any D&D player who's ever rolled a 1 knows the feeling. But this is Jerry Holkins, and Jerry Holkins rolls ones like most people change underwear. So it's freaking hilarious. I love it. But we're gonna see more flubs, and we're gonna see more moments as the series goes on. Really, to me, this really does represent the kind of game that you would see in a person's basement or their kitchen, or even in League play, and this is the kind of thing that you will see. You will see real people doing real things, and I love it. It really seems like, a bunch of friends getting together to play D&D, and that's truly what it needs to be. So am I going to recommend this? Of course I'm going to recommend this. This is AC Inc. we're talking about. Freaking the guys who do PAX. Jerry Holkins, Mike Krahulik, Scott Kurtz. These guys have put on PAX for so many years. They've entertained us for so long. And right here, right now, they're doing Acquisitions Incorporated, the series, a video podcast that we have been begging for as fans ever since they stopped doing the audio ones. So yeah, am I going to want this? Of course I'm going to want this. Am I going to recommend this? Of course I'm going to recommend this. And I'm definitely going to be watching it, and we'll be doing more reviews later on for this as well. In the meantime, this is your old friend JDPaladin saying to everybody out there, stay righteous.